Welcome to today's webinar, The End of Slacktivism, Motivating Donors to take action. I'm José Fernández, the Director of the GuideStar Exchange. I will be introducing Spencer Whelan in a bit. I just want to go over a few housekeeping notes. First off, the Twitter hashtag for those on Twitter is #NoSlacktivism. I also want to let folks know that we will be sending the slides a few days after this webinar. We will have questions at the end of the webinar, question and answer session. And for any questions that we don't get to, we will have a blog post on trust.guidestar.org. With that, I'd like to go to the next slide. The GuideStar Exchange is a database of nonprofit information, and it was designed for nonprofits to enter their current information, current nonprofit updated information, and share it out to potential supporters. We have millions of people who come to GuideStar every day to learn more about nonprofits, and we created the GuideStar Exchange as a platform to allow nonprofits to share that information out to potential grant makers and potential donors. Next slide, please. The GuideStar Exchange membership is a free membership. All the nonprofit has to do is come onto GuideStar.org and click Update Their Profile. At that point, they will claim their nonprofit's profile. GuideStar Exchange members who update their information to the fullest, that is, they're sharing program information, annual reports. If they have audited financials, they can share that as well. We have several incentives for nonprofits that share information at the fullest. One of them being the GuideStar Seal, which you see on your right-hand side, which is the Seal of Transparency. 1 year free subscription to GuideStar Premium. And also their up-to-date information is shared and distributed throughout a network of partners, and also access to fundraising tools such as the one that we're going to talk about today with KIMBIA. Next slide, please. I just want to go through this quick slide that goes through our network of partners. GuideStar data gets distributed to a whole host of partners, from financial services to intermediaries, donation portals, private sector websites also have GuideStar information, and information also gets fed out to foundations. So I want to take this time to let nonprofits out there know that you should come to GuideStar.org, click on Update Profile, and claim your GuideStar profile, update that profile to the fullest, which is taking that profile to full seal level. At this point, I'd like to introduce our speaker, Spencer Whelan. He is Director of Marketing Communications with KIMBIA. Prior to joining KIMBIA, Mr. Whelan served as a consultant at several top public affairs firms and political campaigns. Mr. Whelan has spent most of his career with firms such as APCO Worldwide and Public Strategies Incorporated as an online media strategy expert. In 2006 and early 2007, Mr. Whelan worked as a consultant to the John McCain Presidential Exploratory Committee. He was responsible for their early marketing, branding, and online social media outreach for the campaign. Mr. Whelan holds 2 degrees from the University of Texas at Austin, with a master's in interactive advertising and a bachelor's in radio, television, and film. With that, I'd like to introduce Mr. Whelan. I also want to remind folks that we will have slides sent out a few days after the webinar. We will have question and answer sessions towards the end, and you can participate in Twitter with the hashtag #NoSlacktivism. Spencer?
Thank you very much, Jose. And first, I want to thank GuideStar for allowing us to participate in today's webinar. We're going to talk a little bit about something called Slacktivism, which is a very important element to what we do here at KIMBIA. We're always involved with trying to make sure that people take real actions and rather than slacktivism. So in case you are not aware, slacktivism is the terminology being used today for things that appear to do, or the action of appearing to do good while actually not doing much. Now, a couple of the things you see there have been historically labeled as slacktivist type things, ribbons or bracelets. All those things, raise money and raise awareness, and they have a value, but they've kind of been given a little bit of a pejorative over the years because people will wear a ribbon or put a bracelet on and appear that they're doing something, but they actually have never really done much. The online space has kind of grown significantly in this particular area lately. Slacktivism has taken on a whole new life in the online world. For example, on Twitter, if you wanted to change your profile picture on Twitter from regular to a green tint, that meant that you were supporting the Iran free elections. Or if you wanted to like something, you could very quickly just click the like button, and everybody knew that you supported that cause, but all you had to do was a one click. Today, what people consider slacktivism has kind of been amplified in places like Facebook, for example. This is an example of a cause, the Go Pink for Breast Cancer Awareness, where it has 10.6 million members who have joined this specific cause, but it's raised less than $20,000. So that's around 1/1800th of a penny per member who's joined that cause. So you have 10.6 million people saying supporting the Go Pink for Breast Cancer Awareness cause, but only a very, very small number of people have actually done something to give. If you look at the most successful cause right now on Facebook in terms of dollars donated, there's been $1.1 million raised, which is very good, obviously. But even that has 1.3 million members, so you're still at less than $1 per member who's joined that particular cause. Facebook Causes has done a lot of really good things recently, so I'm not trying to say anything bad about the way they're doing things. They are raising money, and they're doing a great job doing it. But the environment that we live in today allows for people to do things and get credit for doing things without actually doing much. So, the thing that we really kind of start to look at is, well, what we would really like you to do is we would like you to give. So how do we get people from just liking something and doing something that takes really no effort, but they still get credit for it, to actually doing something that makes an impact both with your organization and makes more of an impact on them personally? Slacktivism exists for a couple different reasons. One, it's just human nature. It's human nature to find a way to do something that gives you credit but doesn't require that much of you. And more importantly, though, there's a lot of misdirected motivators out there right now online. The like button and comments and things that tally up all these likes and comments, those are motivating people to like and comment on things more often than actually doing something. So the motivator is, I see this large number of likes over here, I want to join that group as well, and that's motivating people to get involved in that social cause. And last but not least, there's a lot of technological friction still in the online giving space that exists. And what I mean by technological friction is when someone decides to make a donation, there are so many steps online still today that requires you to go through these many different steps to get to the actual point of a transaction. So, whereas giving has always been a little bit of a process, the expectation of what people are prepared to do online today is click and be done with it. So there's still a little bit too much in terms of the amount of friction that it takes for somebody to make a donation online. So if you look at it, slacktivism makes economic sense because it really represents the path of least resistance. So I'm trying not to say that slacktivism is a pejorative here, and I'm not trying to say that people online are slackers, but slacktivism is a reaction to the environment that we're in today. It's a symptom of the environment that we're in today because people are inclined to take the path of least resistance. So I want to make a little bit of a comparison here and do a little kind of old-fashioned SAT analogy for you here. Let's take online slacktivism and say how that compares to philanthropy today. And I want to use this model, that digital piracy is to the music industry that online slacktivism is to philanthropy. And that's because there's a lot of similarities between what the music industry has just gone through with piracy and what philanthropy is going through with online giving and online slacktivism. So let's look back, take ourselves back to 1998, for example. It starts with someone being interested in a song. And this is 1998, year 2000. They say, what do I want to do if I like that song? I have two options. I either get to decide whether I want to purchase it or I want to pirate it. So let's imagine that this person is good and that they have good intentions and a good kind of moral fiber. So they just said, well, what is the process for purchasing? First thing I have to do is I have to gather information, which means I have to ask my friends what this song is, or try to listen to the radio a little longer and hope that the DJ mentions it again, or I have to drive to the record store and thumb through a whole bunch of CDs, or, hopefully, if it's a newer song, it'll be on display so I can listen to it again. And let's imagine I've done all of that and I've actually found the song that I'm looking for. Then I get to the action stage, which is I want to find and grab that CD if they're not out of stock. I have to wait in line for a register, and I have to pay for the entire album because singles aren't available for that one song. And then ultimately I have to end up breaking the case while trying to open the shrink wrap with your car keys. So, at the end of this entire process, you have to look at your costs and benefits and say, well, what happened here? The benefit is I got a very high-quality version of that desired song, and I have a healthy conscience at the end of the day. But in terms of costs, I had to pay for gas or bus fare to get there. I paid essentially $15 to $20 for one song, and then I got 11 or more free songs because I had to buy the whole album, but I really only wanted to pay for one. Then I had to spend about an hour of my life, and then I got a cut on my hand from trying to break the indestructible plastic wrap. So compare that to the same path that you would take under piracy, and you start with information. And information in a pirating sense is doing a search on your computer for the artist, the song, or the genre. And then within a very quick, after a couple seconds of finding all the listings, you find the song that you want and you download it. You don't even have to do anything other than download and listen at the same time. And then your perceived costs and benefits is you got a very decent quality, maybe not as high quality as the CD, but I got a decent quality of the single that I wanted. I found other songs that are similar that I may like. It was free, and the cost is essentially I have a guilty conscience, right? So it was a clear trend in the early 2000s, late 90s that people saw piracy as a real alternative to buying CDs. So as you can see here in the chart, CD and album sales were through the roof on a steady incline all the way up from the early 80s all the way through the 90s and all the way up until around 1998 when Napster came along and provided a real solution for digital piracy. So album sales dropped and have really never recovered since. But somebody said, well, let's take the same process that digital pirates were going through and let's try to monetize that and put it so that people are actually taking real action because we're going to assume that people are good at heart. And that group was iTunes. So what they did is they said, all right, somebody wants interested or they're listening to a song. Well, in that moment, let's give them an application that allows them to listen to the song, find out immediately who it is, and then in one click, go to iTunes and grab just that one version of the song. So the benefits to the person is that they have a high-quality single, just like they would at a CD. They actually owned the song before it was even finished playing, so they're in context with the reason that they wanted to start this process in the first place. They found other tracks, but they're not forced to buy them, and they have no guilty conscience. And at the end of the day, the cost is only $1.29. So now a pirate has to say, is $1.29 worth doing something that is illegal? Well, as you can see, the world has changed. Ever since iTunes came about, roughly around 2001, 2002, the mode has changed completely. there has been a shift from purchasing albums to purchasing singles. And the shift has happened immediately. As you see there, starting in around 2003, 2004, all the way up till today, the number of singles purchased has been insane. And as a result, the music industry has finally started to turn the tide. So, music sales in 2011 are up for the first time since the late 90s, and iTunes accounts for about 25, almost 30% now actually, but about 25 to 30%. And they even, if you watched Apple's announcement yesterday with their iCloud service, now they're making song downloads available from anywhere, regardless of where you are. So this is only a trend that's increasing, and they finally turned the tide. So how did they do it? Well, the first thing that they did is they stopped perceiving people as pirates, and they started thinking of them as fans and early adopters. So, whereas the music industry spent about 10 years suing people who were pirating music and taking them to court and, considering them bad individuals, iTunes looked at it and said they're just doing piracy is a symptom of the environment. So let's say that those people do have good intentions, and they're going to be our future fans, and they're the early adopters of our products. Second, they focused on motivators. So they knew that people were motivated by low-cost transaction opportunities, buying lots of songs in little quantities in many different times, rather than just buying an album a week or a month or every 2 months or whatever you could afford. People would rather buy an individual song. And they also took advantage of context. They knew that people wanted to buy something in that moment when they were inspired by the song that they were listening to. And finally, they reduced as much friction as they could. Whereas the process and the technology of buying music before was arduous and it took a long time, they reduced the friction down to a device that's in your pocket that will give you as high quality of a thing as if you drove to the store and bought it off the shelf. So they reduced friction both in technology and process. So what does that mean for philanthropy? Well, we know that buying has this kind of a process to it. You go from interest to gathering information about what you're going to buy, and then you buy it or take an action, and then you get the benefit after you have purchased the item. This is different than giving. Giving is a completely separate process. It's similar, but it is important to know the differences. First, inspiration and information happen almost simultaneously. If you're learning about a cause or learning about a nonprofit that is doing good in your community, you're learning about it and being inspired at the same time. It's often one process in the same. So it starts with inspiration and information, and then immediately it goes to this kind of ethereal personal benefit that precedes the action. So what that means is, someone says, I feel good about my decision to do something about this. I'm going to help this organization, or I'm going to help this cause. So they get a personal benefit from making the decision to do something. But that all precedes the action. So what does that mean for the action? Well, that means that context and reducing friction are even more important in the action step of a gift, because they already have the personal benefit of knowing that they want to do something and feel good about it. So donating, the process of donating has to be done in context while they're in that feeling, and it has to be such an easy process that they've reduced so much friction that it's just an easy process that I can complete while I'm still in that feeling, while I'm still feeling that personal benefit. But then after that comes a second benefit, and that's the social benefit. And that says that my friends know that I'm doing something good. I have done something now, and I would like other people to know about it so that they think of me well. So there's actually two benefits here in this cycle as opposed to buying, which opens up a lot of value to us, because we know that we can get people involved more because there's even more feeling of benefit throughout the process. So what is the cycle that people have been going through? Well, I would say for the past 10 years or so, people have been going straight from inspiration And then through the act of Slacktivism, whether clicking a like button or commenting on it or saying, yes, I support this, or changing my profile picture, they immediately skip the personal benefit because maybe they feel a little guilty about not really doing much, but they go straight to the social benefit of people thinking that you've done something good. And that's really not healthy, but it's not that those people are doing wrong. They're just doing what the environment has allowed for them. So what we have to do is we have to add the personal benefit and the action back into the cycle. And one of the best ways to do that is through advocacy, because advocacy repeats the cycle over and over and over again. It lets people say, well, there are all these social networks. They have communications elements in each. Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, email. Email is still the largest social network. That's one thing I really want to leave in people's minds is that, you know, sending an email personally from one person to another, that's still social networking. So use those social networks as communications mediums first, so that when somebody makes a donation, then the social benefit of taking an action can be published through those vectors, and then allow for a secondary personal benefit of, yes, now I'm recruiting people in addition to raising money, and the cycle just continues. So there's even more benefit if this is done correct. So how do we create real action? Well, let's take our notes from the digital piracy space, and let's start with changing our paradigm of the world. We have to stop thinking of people as slackers. We have to stop thinking of them as slacktivists and remove that from our vocabulary, and start thinking of them as future donors, because they're going to be the early adopters of online giving, and they're going to be the early adopters of taking many donations in many different contexts. So that's our first step. Second step is reducing friction. Same as iTunes did, we have to look at both our technology and our process. From a technology standpoint, think of places like social networks like Facebook and Twitter as the communications networks that they are, first and foremost. They exist because people like to talk to each other, they like to read what other people are doing, and that is why liking something is so successful. Because I get to say I've done something and I like this thing, and people get to see it. And people get to say, oh, well, I want to like that too. So it becomes a communication network, and information spreads virally that way. But second, in terms of giving tools, they need to be able to satisfy the needs of your organization and the needs of donors in many different contexts, whether it's on Facebook or on a website or on a mobile device. The giving tools have to reduce friction no matter where they are and where they've heard the message that inspired them to give in the first place. And then finally, in terms of process, you have to look at your organization, and you have to look at how you want to receive money and how donors want to give money. So how do future donors want to give? For example, mobile. Is that going to become a huge method of giving? I personally think so. So you have to say, well, what does that mean for us? Are we prepared for mobile giving? Are we prepared for text to give? Or are we prepared for giving via smartphone? And also, you have to look at your organization and say, are we prepared to receive gifts in new ways? For example, if we do a text-to-give campaign, it may take 30, 60, 90 days to receive the funds. Can I wait that long for the money that I need? Am I prepared to have lots of micro donations? Am I prepared to work through other organizations that will, allow people to give a little bit over the purchase price to an organization and receive those over time? Is donor information important to me? Some mobile giving options allow you to text to give, but you don't get any information about the donor. You may get money at a certain period of time down the road. But if it's important to your campaign that you have information and that you have a relationship with your donors, you need to make sure that the system that you're using and the process that you're using allows for that. And then finally, focus on motivators. And what are the real motivators in the current world of online giving? Well, we know that Slacktivism works because people don't have to do much in order to get some kind of benefit, socially or otherwise. So instead of asking them to do essentially nothing, which is the like button or comment or something, ask for soft asks, things like complete a survey, give us a little more information about yourself, Sign up for this webinar. Sign up for this information, or sign up for this ribbon or pin or something like that. Something that is a very low barrier to entry to the future donor that you're trying to cultivate. Second, focus on giving in context. Make sure that whenever you have a campaign and you have messages that inspire people to give, that there's some type of giving opportunity there. Just like iTunes did, where you hear a song, you have the opportunity to buy it on iTunes. Do the same thing with your messages. And finally, it's time to convert the social benefits. It's time to stop saying, like us, just to like us, and start saying, we need to put metrics in front of people that are based on dollars or donations, so that people are motivated to get the benefit of, I raised this much, or I recruited this many people to be a part of this organization, or to raise money on their own, that I raised this much is better than I liked this much. So it's time for us to craft our campaigns around benefits that matter. So I just want to go through a couple examples here. First, talking about reducing friction. And this is a recent example of a campaign that we worked on with the Community Foundation of Middle Tennessee and Taylor Swift's folks. It was a great campaign, great idea by the folks in Taylor Swift's camp to take her take her final dress rehearsal before her summer tour and turn it into a fundraiser for tornado victims in the Southeast. So what she was able to do was build a landing page on her primary website and put a donation form directly into the same page where people could buy tickets. So that if you wanted to participate in this and you couldn't be in Nashville for that benefit concert, then you could also give on the same page. So she had a message, she sent it out, people could go to her website. In addition, the exact same form was embedded directly into her Facebook page, so that you could say, I'm going to write she could write a wall post, and that wall post would say, I'm raising money, I'm doing this benefit concert, please give today. And instead of asking people to go off of Facebook and into another 4 or 5 step process on another website to make a donation, the donation form was right there, embedded into her page, and she could inspire people to give right there. And then finally, at the concert itself, there were cards passed out that allowed people to scan a 2D code or text to give based on the information on the back of that card. So if you had your smartphone available, you could, instead of just giving $10, you could scan the 2D code. A form that was mobile optimized would pop up on your screen, and you could give any amount that you wanted to, and the organization would then have the information of the donor at the end of the process. So they wanted to open it up for as many ways as possible, but they really wanted to get donor information so that they could talk to those people in the future. And this mobile application allowed them to do that. So 3 different applications reduced friction. It was one system that allowed for donations in multiple places. Finally, next section I want to talk about is focusing on motivators. And, the motivators, like I said, are donations and donors. So here's an example with the Community Foundation for Greater New Haven, where they wanted to do a giving challenge. Now, instead of taking all their grant dollars and doing matching funds dollar for dollar until funds ran out, what they decided to do is craft a giving event that allowed people to donate based on, or donate to any organization they wanted in the community. But the great thing was that each of the nonprofits were competing with each other to see who could raise the most dollars and who would get the most donations. So there were early bird prizes for the first organizations to get at least 50 donors. They would get a grant. And then throughout the process, the organizations that garnered the most eligible gifts, they would also earn additional grant prizes. So it became this competitive thing. People were, posting this leaderboard and links to this leaderboard on Facebook and Twitter, and using the communication networks of Facebook and Twitter to promote the competition that was happening based on dollars. So rather than just liking something, people were giving, and all the motivators were appropriate. Another example here is something that we're doing this week with the Dallas and Miami YMCA. They are obviously in the finals, the Miami Heat and the Dallas Mavericks, and the YMCAs of each of those cities are competing with each other to see who can raise the most money for their particular YMCA. So the Dallas YMCA is working with us. We put a donation form directly onto their Facebook page, and if you look up in the top left corner, you'll see a scoreboard that they update every day, sometimes multiple times per day, to let people know how many donations are coming in and competing with Dallas and Miami. We're happy to say that the Dallas YMCA that we're working with is currently winning, even though even though Dallas is not. But it's a great example of working on Facebook and with an appropriate motivator. Next, give people motivations outside of just dollars. If they can't afford to do something, maybe they have a website and they can afford to put the donation form on their website. So this is an example during the floods last year in Nashville, where the Community Foundation created a giving widget that was available for anyone to download and copy and paste and put onto their page. So rather than just liking something, they could grab a piece of code and in about the same amount of steps, just control copy, control paste, they could put a form on their website, and this particular blogger raised over $50,000. That was totally unexpected dollars. And then a large organization could do the same exact thing. So regardless of the resources, whether it's a small blogger or a large organization like Great American Country, they could take a form, put it on their site, and donate that space and allow people to make donations through their site and reach an entirely larger audience. Finally, really focus on social benefits that are based on actions and advocacy. Working with the community or the Team Fight, which is the Ullman Cancer Fund, and here's an example of a woman who's really done a great job fundraising. But you'll notice that she has the opportunity to personalize her form. It's a very simple process to personalize her form. She has a progress tracker that says how much she's raised and exactly who has contributed to her, so that every action is what promotes more social benefit for her and for her donors. So, for example, if I was to donate to the American Heart Association, say the Go Red campaign, which I'll talk a little bit more about in a second, I would receive a receipt like this. So after I take the action, it says, now let's do some stuff on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and your email networks. Now go and tell them that you're raising money. So instead of just liking something or liking that you did something, say, let me go post this on Facebook and Twitter, so that your messages that go out, rather than I like something, are I did something. And here in one click, you can go do something too. So it's really just flipping the motivations of people, saying instead of just I like or I want to comment on, or they get both the personal benefit of knowing that they've done something good, and they still get the social benefit of letting people know what they're doing. So, like I said, I want to talk a little bit about the Go Red campaign, because I think it's one of the better examples that we've seen of putting all three of these things into practice. And it started by putting a registration form directly onto the Go Red for Women Facebook fan page. And it was just asking people, hey, do you want a free dress pin, which, as we talked about earlier, is commonly known as kind of a slacktivist activity. Yeah, I'll put a pin on my lapel, or a pin on my lapel, but I want to do it for free, right? So we're giving them that opportunity. Sign up. Here's a free form. But what we're asking for is real information, not just your Facebook profile, not just for you to like us or comment about it. We're asking for real info. So as a result, over 41,000 people requested a pin to be mailed to their home. And they got real address information, both in English and in Spanish, for both of their fan pages, allowing people to give real information and get a real benefit on the back end of it. So, putting all of these things together, they first look at this and say, you know what, these are not slackers, these are people that want to do something. Let's give them that opportunity, and let's say, instead of a donation, let's get some real information on these people, and that actually has real value. These are future donors. These are not slackers. These are people that want to engage. Let's give them a way to do that. Let's reduce as much friction as possible. The form is embedded directly into Facebook. They don't have to leave the experience that they started on. It's one click away, and it's one click, complete a form and submit button. Takes less than a minute, and you have everything that you need to make to start getting that future donor into your system. And obviously the process is simple as well. And then again, here are the motivators. It was a soft ask. It was a free item in exchange for real information. The social benefit was on the other side of it, saying you're going to get a lapel pin that you can wear and show people that you're a part of our organization. And it was always in context. People always had the opportunity to make a donation in context and move forward. So it really took all three of those things, put it together, and as a result, 41,000 people have, 41,000 more people are a part of that organization and can become future donors down the road. So with that, I'd like to thank everybody. I'd like to let everyone know that these forms will be, or this will be available at GuideStar.KIMBIA.com. If you have questions or you want to see more information about some of these case studies, you can go look at that as well. And we'll have the slides available for you to download, and you can request more information there. So I'll kick it back to Jose and open up the floor for questions.
Great, thank you. That was a great presentation. Definitely have a few questions here. Let's see. I had a question here about how does the KIMBIA product relate to the earlier GuideStar exchange information that I had earlier. So we can kind of show the audience how these two marry up on GuideStar. That would be great.
Sure. Let me see if I can open up a window here.
Sure. And then while you're going through that, I just want to remind folks that we do have an active Twitter stream. No Slacktivism is the hashtag. Also want to remind folks that we will have a blog post going on trust.guidestar.org in the coming days. And for anyone that wanted the slides, we will have the slides available in the coming days, emailed to all of the attendees.
Okay. So to answer that first question, you'll see here that KIMBIA has been working with GuideStar on several different projects with community foundations and others. But one of the things, and talking about context, was we were integrated directly into GuideStar.org so that people can make donations for any organization. So just like I was talking about before, with the information and the inspiration happening at the same time, if you're looking for information about an organization, in this case I just looked up GuideStar, I can click and within one step be taken to a completely fully functional donation form without ever leaving the page. It's embedded directly into this pop-up window, so it allows people to make a donation faster than if they were directed to another giving process. So does that answer the question there, Jose?
Yes, thank you. And that actually leads me to another question about the form and how can a nonprofit go about getting one of these forms, and what are the different areas that they can embed this form for this nonprofit? Can they also give this form to a donor? So I guess there were two questions there. One, how can they go about acquiring the form? And two, how can they go about then sharing the form with the constituents?
Absolutely. Well, let me go to, I'll go to our website and show you an example of a form that's been embedded. But, GuideStar.KIMBIA.com, that link that I was showing you before, or you can go to KIMBIA.com, and you can see that there's informational forms, and you can talk with us about how KIMBIA works specifically. But let me show you, for example, this is a blog post that we wrote about the Taylor Swift concert, and we've actually embedded a fully functional form directly into place there. So what you'll notice is that at the bottom of every single form, there's a embed button. So just like a YouTube clip, I can take this and I can decide to copy that piece of code, and then I can go to my website, paste that into the HTML, or if I'm a blogger, I can paste it into a blog post, and this entire donation form will replicate itself on any other website anywhere, whether and whether that's the Taylor Swift website, or if that's a blogger or a fan's website, or anything else. So I can share this on Facebook and LinkedIn and Twitter just like normal, but I will also get special messages saying I'm raising money. If I complete this form, I will get that as an email that I can then share with my friends. So.
All right. Thank you for that. We have another question here. This one is actually from Twitter. What is the easiest way for organizations without much staff or money to combat slacktivism?
Well, that's a really good question, and one of the things I want to talk about is there are a lot of different ways that I think. There's lots of different organizations, even outside of what we're doing, that are doing good jobs of converting people to take additional action. One of the examples I'm showing here is Facebook Causes, and one of the things you'll see is the Give a Minute button down there at the bottom. And I think that's actually a very good trend by Facebook Causes to allow people to do something outside of just joining the organization or taking another step. What they can do is they can watch an ad, and that ad is obviously supported by whatever company is running the ad, but by spending 1 minute watching an ad, that company will donate $1 to the organization. So there are lots of little ways that you can raise money that are, again, they're soft asks. Watch this ad and take another step. There's an organization out there called Do Bidder, which allows people to do auctions, and they can bid on items, and by bidding, they're actually depositing money into an account for that fund, and then all the proceeds that go above and beyond the auction cost of that item go to the organization that it was helping. So I think that there are a lot of ways that companies like us and like Causes and these other organizations that are trying to give people additional options so that they can take actions that end up doing good at the end of the day. So as a smaller organization, I would just say work as hard as you can on pointing people to pages that have action and inspiration at the same time. Try to put a donation process into the same page or into the same call to action as your marketing messaging, because it's really all one continuous flow of gathering information, being inspired by that information, and making a gift, and start expecting smaller donations much more frequently.
Great, thank you. I have actually a couple other questions from the smaller organizations. And first one is, what is the level of tech skills required to implement this program? Well,
the technology skills are from, I can only speak to KIMBIA here, so I'll just speak to what our system allows it to do. From a donor standpoint, completing a form is simple. If you have a website or if you have a blog, and you know how to publish a YouTube clip, then you know how to publish a KIMBIA form. You copy the code, you paste it into your page, and the form appears. It's fully secured, and it works from that point forward. As an organization, if you're using our software, you're building a form using an online form building tool. So there really isn't any technology or coding or practices that you have to take other than knowing how to build a form with our product and then take the widget code, is what we call it, or the snippet code, and copy and paste that into your site. So those are all, as far as we're concerned, for the vast majority of people, it's a copy and paste function is essentially all the person has to know.
Okay, great. That was very good information. I actually had a follow-up question. I'm not sure if it's necessary right now, since this is such a simple copy and paste, but just in case, there was a follow-up question of are there any resources or any other help that will be provided to an organization that, say, wants to take on a program such as this?
If an organization is interested, they can go to GuideStar.KIMBIA.com, and they can fill out a form. It can be a form, of course. Let me go to it really quickly to show you. So it's GuideStar.KIMBIA.com. And when you land on the page, there will be a form right there that will allow you to submit your information. You will receive some information back, and we can help you through that process. We also have additional product documentation and some videos so that people can watch and see how the tool works, and that's at KIMBIA.com.
Great. And can you speak a little bit to the security of the form?
Absolutely. This is something that is very important because it's one of the things that we know is unique about our system, and that's that there's a couple levels of security. One is credit card security, and another is the actual form security itself. Most donation systems require that people go to some page that is secured, an HTTPS page, for example. You'll see an S here at the end of it, at the end of the URL, that says go to https secure.something.com and you can make a donation. What we do is we secure the entire form. So you'll actually see that everything that's being transmitted through a KIMBIA form is being transmitted through the same level of security as those pages. But the form itself is secured rather than the entire page. So that means the form can go anywhere, and it can exist on a Facebook page, a non-secured page, or a non-HTTPS page, but the form remains secure wherever. Then in addition to that, our system, our back-end system is PCI Level 1 compliant, which means that we have the highest level of security that the payment card industry requests. And actually, if you take Visa, MasterCard, any of those major credit cards, the payment card industry requires that your organization work with a PCI Level 1 provider. So this is a trend that has been happening over the last few years, but it has become more important, as you can imagine, over the past year or so. And we have both security at the form level and then data security on the back-end level that are the highest standards.
Great. Let's see. Are there any takeaways that you want to give the audience here as we start to round out the hour? The takeaways that I really want people to remember are, look at this. Take a look at this and see that in the music industry, something happened in the late 90s that changed the game completely. And the record companies and music producers and everyone had to say, what's going on, what has changed? And it took them about 10 years or so to stop thinking in their old way and start preparing for the new paradigm. And the first responder, so to speak, was iTunes, who took advantage of it most and totally changed the game because they were prepared and they changed their mindset first. So think of yourself and your organization in that regard. We know that there's a change going on. We know that people are online. We know that they're taking actions online. We're frustrated because they're not taking the right kind of actions that we want them to. So instead, what do we do to direct them to the right kind of actions? So we have to change our paradigm and cater to the way that they're working online and not look at them in a negative sense. It's not a bad thing that somebody wants to have a ribbon on their Facebook profile. It's not a bad thing that they want to wear a lapel pin. Those are all good things. It's not a slacktivist activity to want to do those things. What we need to do is just make it as easy to do those things with a benefit as it is to do it today without a benefit. And I think what you'll start to see in a very short period of time is that once a large percentage of the nonprofit industry starts to change their mindset, then we'll see online giving go through the roof, as you saw digital music downloads go through the roof. Great. That was actually a very, very good takeaway point. Let's see. I just want to go through the housekeeping notes again, just letting folks know that we will be emailing these slides, and we also will be putting up a blog post. Spencer, if there's anything else that you want to add as we close out, please chime in. If not, we can go right ahead, and thanks, folks, for joining the webinar. Anything else, Spencer?
Well, that's it. Just go to GuideStar.KIMBIA.com if you want some more information. Obviously, as Jose said, we'll be sending more information out to you, and I will be following up on the GuideStar Trust blog with additional questions that we didn't get to answer today. So I just want to thank everyone for their time and attention and questions.
Great. Thank you all.